All right, Chris, let's start here. 16-10, an upset win on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. First of all, give me a few quick takeaways here from this game that I don't think went down. I think a lot of people were surprised by the way it all kind of shook out.
I wasn't. One guy here that was not surprised. I said we talked about it last week, right? There were a few keys to win this game, and it was going to be field position, get a few turnovers, and score a couple points. And we did it. I mean, I to be honest with you, I thought the game went exactly as well as it could be. Right? I think there are going to be things that we have to work on offensively, but that's going to be the tale that we tell all year round. But defensively, I mean, what more could we ask for? And special teams, we got a turnover on special teams, which increases our win percentage by, I mean, I don't even know how much. Mm-hmm. We got 2 turnovers on defense. I mean, we played the game. Cincinnati did not look ready to play the Patriots. Jamar Chase did not look ready to play the Patriots. Joe Burrow did not look ready. And our offensive line, who everyone has been talking trash about for the last 6 months, came out. The guy that's written 452 stories on
exactly
how bad our offensive line is going to be.
Yeah.
They came out and played, man. I mean, listen, it wasn't all perfect. And I mean, our pass game has to improve, but we're going to rely on the run game. Rhamondre Stevenson had an incredible game, and he ran the hell out of the ball. And that's something that we're probably going to hang our hat on for the rest of this year is if our run game is effective, then we can get guys up in the box, and that's going to open up the pass game. We didn't need to pass the ball in this game. We scored. We went up early. We put some points on the board. We relied on our defense to kind of hold them. And listen, there were no big plays that led up on defense. We held Jamar Chase to under 70 yards receiving. I think he only had 62. T. Higgins being out was a big factor. We created turnovers, and we got the dub. So this was an amazing start to a season that I don't think anyone expected us to go up into Cincinnati and win this football game.
No one, other than you. There were a handful of people. There were a few true believers out there. This felt very much like a retro win in a lot of ways, where like something out of 2003, where you run the ball, you play tough defense, you get some special teams magic. Plus, we're forgetting Joey Sly, 3 field goals.
Yep,
3 field goals. And I was a little bit worried in the second half when they settled for those 2 field goals in a game with no margin for error. You're leaving points out there, but still they made it work. They played great. They played, it wasn't perfect. The offensive line, I think, still could kind of use a little bit of work. Okorafor yanked there midway through the first quarter, and Vidarian Lowe came in, and I thought Vidarian Lowe was a better matchup for Trey Hendrickson in that he was able to kind of steer Hendrickson around to the outside, and Jacoby had the pocket presence, and I want to get into this with you now, had the pocket presence to step up. And that's not something we saw over the last couple of years in a situation like that where Jacoby could sense the pressure, was able to step up, make the throws. He was not statistically overwhelming. But look, this goes back to something that we've said about Jacoby Brissett for a long time. With him under center, you are not going to lose games because of the quarterback play.
Yep.
You might not necessarily win games. He was 15 for 24 for 100-something yards. But other than the one throw that was almost picked off in the end zone, that was the Jacoby Brissett sort of performance that we're going to get, I think, over the course of the 2024 season.
Yeah, I think, listen, it was great that we won this game, and you were right. Jacoby's not going to lose us football games. He made that one errant throw, and, we made a good play and broke it up to continue to win more football games. Listen, everyone's going to know, okay, we can run the football, right? Rhamondre Stevenson is a good back. Okay, so I would fully expect Seattle to come in here and say, okay, we're going to stop the run game, right? So he's going to have to pass the ball. He's going to have to do it effectively. Van Pelt's going to have to open up that pass game and get some guys involved a little bit more here and there. So I would expect that to kind of evolve a little bit, get some of the young kids involved, get Pop more involved. Get a little bit more movement. I loved what they were doing on third down. Everything was across the field. There was nothing really one-on-one outside. It was all across the field. Listen, we go up, we get a touchdown, then we get the ball back. We have a 3rd and 16. We don't try to throw the ball across the field. We threw a slant. We gained 13 yards. We kicked a field goal. That's smart football. That's getting points on the board. That's just kind of letting the game evolve, not trying to win the game in the first quarter. We are not a team that's going to put up 30 points in a game. Yeah. Were there chances? Was it out there? Were there points that we left? Sure. But we had positive plays, man. We didn't hurt ourselves. We weren't killing ourselves with penalties. Our special teams, we won that field position battle. Mm-hmm. We absolutely did. I mean, our special teams played their butts off.
They did.
Especially on the punt, right? I mean, we created
they did. Again, we talk about it feeling like a retro game. That was one of the things that made it feel like a retro game, where the Patriots for so many years, you were part of these teams where they would win games on the margins. And those margins were special teams. It was field position. It was the field goals. It was the work of Brendan Schooler, making tackles inside the 20. It's Bryce Behringer dropping 3 punts inside the 20. Being able to tilt the field and make Joe Burrow go the length of the field in those instances in a difficult situation. Yep. Those were all keys to success.
Yep. And it's going to be a key to success. I mean, listen, it's a tough task to do it every single week, but that's going to be the ask of this team. So when we come on here on a Monday or a Tuesday after a game and we haven't done one of those 3 things, I guarantee you we're probably not as happy as we are, sitting here today, because that's what it's going to take to win these football games. It really is. It's going to take our defense to play their lights out, try to create a turnover, and limit big plays. I think that's going to be a big factor, right? And I think we did that pretty effectively. And we're going to have to, no turnovers, and our special teams going to have to play well. None of these kids are going to go off. We're not going to go crazy and put up 30, 40 points in a football game. And if we can't do all of these things effectively week in and week out, it's going to be tough. But if we can, and we can do it decently well, we're going to stay in football games, and we're going to make it hard for teams to beat us. And I think, I love the momentum that we have going into week 2. I thought it was really cool. I was so happy for Jerod. He got the Gatorade dump and everything for people. I mean, listen, man, we didn't have that energy at all last year. Right. And you can just tell that this team is so supportive of one another, and specifically their head coach, right? If people didn't believe in what Jerod was trying to do there, he's not getting a Gatorade dump, right? But he did, man. And everyone was super happy for him. I mean, listen, I thought DA was crying in the dang locker room. I saw one picture and he had his hands up. I mean, that's an emotional win, man. I mean, you go out week 1 on the road in a game that no one across the country thought you were going to win, and you got a dub. I mean, that's huge. It really is. Probably in the grand scheme of things, maybe not so big in everyone else's views, because they're like, whatever, it's week 1. But in New England, that was huge. And I'm super, super proud of this team going out and fighting the way that they did on Sunday. It was fun to watch.
What, if anything, surprised you about that game? For me, it was, even though there was a lot of drama around Jamar Chase, I thought that they would still find a way to get him the ball. Now, probably a lot of that has to do with the job that Christian Gonzalez, was able to do on Sunday, going up against him, really limiting him to 3 catches when it mattered. But I still thought that Chase, being so good, being an elite wide receiver, would figure something out, would figure out ways to get open, or they would scheme something to get him open more than they did.
I was surprised by the lack of energy on the Bengals sideline. It seemed like from the jump that they just did not look ready to play that football game. Joe Burrow didn't have any energy. Jamar Chase kind of looked like he was just kind of dragging throughout the game. Defense is complaining the entire time. Hendrickson's coming off the sidelines complaining about people holding them, whatnot. Like, dude, whatever, man. You guys got your butts kicked by a team that you were supposed to beat. And you guys came out in week 1 and laid an egg. And that set the tone for the rest of your season. So if I'm in Cincinnati and I'm Zach Taylor, man, like, I'm pissed. Right. And I'm not happy with my football team and how they played that game. So I was surprised by that, but I was happy that we recognized that as, on New England, and the Patriots recognized that and they jumped on it, man.
Yeah.
And they used all of those that we made plays. That play in the end zone that Duggar knocked that ball. I mean, that's a good freaking football play. But again, like, why the hell are we reaching a football out? Like, just that, those are the things that Cincinnati hurt themselves, man. They lost that football game. They did it to themselves, and we capitalized on it. So, score one for the Pats and not great for the Bengals. They got a lot to work on. If they want to compete in their league this year, they're going to have to play a lot better football. But I think, at least for us, that set the tone for the season, where like Seattle's coming in and be like, okay, yeah, this is not the New England team of last year. This team cares. They can run the ball. They're going to beat your ass on defense, and they're going to make you earn it. And we'll see what Jacoby can do on offense.
Right? Give me one guy who you were surprised by in either a positive or negative way, and I'll start here. Kind of go down the depth chart a little bit. Jonathan Jones. I thought, over the years, we're used to very consistent, very professional level of performance from him, making the stop on fourth down, coming up with at least one pass breakup, just being a really good complementary corner to a guy like Christian Gonzalez, playing alongside Marcus Jones, being a part of that secondary. He was a guy who I was a little bit concerned with at the start of the season. He'd been on and off the field. He's had the hamstring issue. To be able to show up like that in week one, that's a huge boost. And there's guys up and down the roster who I think, to me, were a surprise. But for he's one of those names that stands out for me in a positive way. That I don't know if I saw that coming from him on Sunday.
Here's mine. This is the first time we took the field without 18 in what, 16 years, 15 years.
Yeah,
right.
It's 2008.
Brendan Schooler stepped up big time. He made tackles in the open field on punt. He was a leader on that team on special teams. A guy that seemingly, had a bunch of penalties last year and kind of hurt us a little bit in some instances, but always played with a lot of energy and always was one of our key special teamers. But we didn't have Matthew Slater on the field yesterday or on Sunday, right? And that's someone that is going to be missed for his leadership and his ability to make plays. He stepped up. He really did. And to be honest with you, I knew the defense was going to play well, but there were no missed open field tackles. We made the plays when we had to. We stopped them on fourth down. We did all of those things. I mean, what I would love to see is more of the young receivers. I would love to see more of Pop. I would love to see, I want to see them get the ball in their hands. I don't want to rely on the run game, because what Seattle's going to do. There's going to be 8 in the box, and it'll be like, okay, cool, Jacoby, go beat us now, right? That's going to happen, right? And they're going to be okay, cool, we can run the ball. Okay, great. Like, let's make Jacoby beat us. So that's what I think that's what's going to end up happening. And it's like, all right, well, what's our plan now? Who are we getting involved? How are we doing this? What are our formations? How much movement are we doing pre-snap? Who's going to be our go-to guys? And I think that's going to be the story that we're going to tell for the rest of this quarter of, all right, can Jacoby win football games with his arm and not have to always rely on the defense and creating 3 turnovers in a football game?
You worried about the mindset of Javon Baker at all? Rookie, fourth, day 2 pick. There's some expectations there. They come out the week 1 opener and he's inactive.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, it's week 1, right? I think that they went with, you're going to have to trust in this coaching staff, and you're going to have to, again, like, this is the NFL, man. Remove your sensitivity. If you weren't active for this game, then work your tail off to get active for the next one. And that's fine. And we went in with the guys that we thought were going to help us win the football game. And I think I told you, I think that there's going to be some up and down movement throughout the year with those guys. Javon might be active next week. Thornton might be he might be inactive. But as long as we have a group of guys that's going to produce, because I guarantee you, we're going to have to throw the ball 30 times next week, and we're going to have to complete more than 50% of them. And some of them are going to have to be big plays down the field. And if those guys are capable of doing it, then great. Then we're sticking with those guys. But if it's not, then let's bring up some guys. Let's get Javon going. Let's get Polk going. Let's get Pop more than 3 targets in a football game. And let's let these guys get in the open field and make some plays, because we are not going to be able to win 8 games by Rhamondre Stevenson is going to run out of gas, man. I mean, we can't just rely on him to run the ball 30 times and get 120 yards on the ground. Like, that's great. But to ask him to do that for 17 games, it's
a lot. It's a lot,
dude. Yeah. We can't do that. Like, let's take a little pressure off him. We have to. So that's got to be in Van Pelt's back of his mind. Like, great win, bro. But like, there's obviously, like, let's build off of it. But there's a lot of things that we need to get better at and then continue to build on too, to continue to win football games this year. I believe that.
I want to ask you about the post-game scene in the locker room. I was in there afterward. There was a lot of happiness. There was a lot of joy. There was a lot of excitement. Yeah. Jerod Mayo got a game ball. Jacoby Brissett got a game ball. Talked about crying before the game, just overcome with emotion, everything that it meant to him. After the game, Juwan Bentley was the guy who broke the team down. It was impressed with him. Well, okay. Well, I want to. First of all, I want to ask you why that's important for non-Patriots fans. Patriots fans know the rule. The role of that guy. It was Bruschi, it was Slater, and now Bentley has been given the opportunity, at least for the opener. We don't know if it's going to kind of rotate or whatever, but explain to people who aren't necessarily Patriots fans who are listening or watching why that job is as important as it is. Because that's the unsung hero of your team. The guy that's not going to be on the stat report, although he probably was. I don't know how many tackles he had the game, but it seemed like he was in on every single tackle. I mean, he was flying around, making, impactful, laying hits. He was there, man. And I don't know how many times we called his name for tackles, but that guy, the guy that kind of will set the tone for you, the guy that's going to come downhill and lay out your back or get a big play on defense, or the guy that you're going to look to that's going to make all of these calls on defense and get your team in position and make sure, we don't talk about that position enough, but the Brewskis of the world, right? The Dante Hightowers of the world. These guys, that's the engine, man. That's what makes this defense go. And he's gotten to that spot by the work that he's put in, right? And he's not, we don't talk about the players enough on defense. And I think we're going to talk about Christian because he's going to be locked up on our number ones. We're going to talk about Duggar. We're going to talk about Peppers, the guys that are going to start making some plays in the backfield. But Juwan Bentley, that dude played his ass off on Sunday. And he's going to have to do that week in and week out, but well-deserved game ball. And obviously we're giving a game ball to the first-year head coach, and you're going to give a game ball to your quarterback because everyone's talked about that. But every single week, those 3 guys, Jerod included, got to show up. Yeah. Right? And they got to be the leaders of this team because everything went well on Sunday. There was no real dip, right? We didn't really feel – I never felt like this game was slipping away from us. That's going to happen at some point, and it might happen in week 2. And how do all 3 of those guys react? I'm curious how Mayo handles this and handles the team moving forward, because to your point, there wasn't much adversity on Sunday. Yeah. And you have a young team and you're feeling really good about yourself. You get a win on the road. How do you tamp down that level of not entitlement, but give them the sense of look, that was great, but we have another challenge ahead of us? To be honest with you, man, I don't know if you do, because that would be a Bill thing, right? That would be something. Not that we were ever underdogs when we ever had Brady at quarterback, or we ever won a game that maybe we weren't supposed to. We were supposed to win all the games that we were in. But that would be okay, cool. You win week 1, great, move on. You guys still suck, right? That's what it would be. You would win a football game and you'd come in on Monday and you felt like you lost the game. Mm-hmm. I don't think Jerod's going to do that. I think that you got
you got to build off of this, man. And if your guys are confident and they're riding high, then just let's keep that thing going, because that's going to help. That's only going to help you, man. I mean, listen, the adversity could go one of two ways. That confidence can help you deal with the adversity when it comes, or guys are just going to go straight into the tank. But I don't see that happening. I see we have enough guys in this team that are going to be leaders. We're going to lose football games, right? We're not going to win every single game. But I think it's a matter of, listen, we showed on Sunday that we can compete. And I think that's what we are going to try to do week in and week out. And there are going to be keys to winning these games. And listen, we're going to ask a lot of our defense. We're going to ask a lot of our front seven guys to get to the quarterback and create a little bit of chaos. We're going to have to ask a lot of our quarterback at some point in the game, because, again, we said we cannot rely on our backs to gain 100 yards every game. So I kind of think that I'm kind of just pumping these guys up as much as possible. Be like, hey, that was great. We got some things to work on, but let's use this, man. We got a team, a Seattle team that, to be honest with you, did not look all that great last weekend. Like, DK Metcalf looked flat. He didn't look like he had a lot of energy to him. He wasn't really getting the ball. They said that they're going to try to run the ball. Great. Come in and try to run the ball against us in New England. Like, let's see how that works out for you. And then make Geno Smith beat you. Okay. Because I got keys to win this game. And I think that we could go 2-0 going into the season.
Well, let's talk about some of the keys to this game coming up this week.
Sure.
First of all, I'm hoping, and I know this is not going to be the case, but I'm still holding out hope that Seattle agrees to wear their throwbacks in week 2 like they did in week 1. Maybe the most underrated throwback uniform in the National Football League. I know everyone loves the Chargers. Everyone loves, the Dolphins, but the Seahawks throwbacks that they wore on week 1 were absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, they were good.
Secondly,
A lot better than the freaking Giants. So those
yes, and you see, it's all the good it did for them.
Yeah.
The idea of you're not going to see a lot of too high safety if you're Jacoby Brissett in this game. You're not going to see a lot of dime cover. You're going to see a Seattle team that saw what happened in week 1. They're going to load up the box and they're going to say, all right, beat us with KJ Osborne, beat us with Jalen Polk, beat us over the top. Try, you know what? If you can do that, great. But we are going to force you to have to throw the football. What does New England have to change across the board offensively to be able to be successful in this one? How multiple do they have to be? How different do they have to be in this game as opposed to week 1?
I think it's got to be a completely different offense, to be honest with you. I think that we have to do multiple things out of multiple different personnel. So I think that we have to be able to throw the ball in 12 personnel. We need to come out in 11. We need to come out in 10, get split everyone out. I think, let's get Rhamondre out there. I'm not sure how great he is as a pass catcher, but maybe this is a game where we do have Baker active and we carry a couple more receivers. I'm not saying that we need to rely on the pass game to win this, but there are going to be games where we're going to have to throw the ball. And I think this is, like you said, there's not going to be a lot of zone coverage in this game. Yeah, Seattle is a cover 3 team. They've always been that statistically and in history that's shown that that's what they run, but it's going to be cover 3 man. And they're going to make you, we're going to have to beat some guys, and we're going to have to, maybe we throw in a little bit of no huddle. Maybe we keep them on their we gotta, we have a personnel that we like and we get them in, cover, out of their dime and in their normal defense. Maybe we keep them in that. Don't give them a chance to sub. And we kind of throw in a mix of those packages. You saw that Cincinnati defense was gassed, bro. I mean, they were gassed.
Yeah.
And that's across the league. Let's use that to our advantage. Right? We might not be if they're gassed, the pass rush is slow. It's not, we're going to have a little bit more time. We're still going to have to get creative, I think, on the outside, the edge, like kind of slowing down edge rushers and giving Jacoby time. But listen, we don't have a young quarterback that's going to take a 8-10 yard drop and put himself in a bad spot.
Yeah.
I think he's going to step up. I think he made some plays. He's going to have to use his feet a little bit, but to your point, we're going to have to see Pop. We're gonna have to see KJ. We're gonna have to see our young guys and our tight ends come up and make some plays. So I'm curious to see what Van Pelt kind of cooks up for this week. I think I would love to see a lot of pre-snap movement. Get them guessing, man. Let's get some stuff going across, get some guys running across formations, get some different movement here, some play action. They're going to be diving down, trying to stop Rhamondre. Great. Let's use that to our advantage. And then kind of make the adjustments going into the second and, the second quarter and into halftime and kind of see where we're at. Again, defense going to have to stop DK. Don't let it. The Seattle play. They prey on making big plays with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Chunk plays, big plays downfield. All right. Well, Christian, step up. Right. Here's another tall ask. Stop the 6'5" monster out there that can take over a football game if you give him the chance. But let's not give him the chance. Right. And I think this could be. It's a defensive battle. It's a field position battle. And how often can we put points on the board? Doesn't have to necessarily be touchdowns, but how often can we put points on the board?
Pop talked earlier this summer about facing Christian Gonzalez every day in practice, every week in practice. And one of the things that threw him, he said, was that Gonzalez doesn't talk.
Yeah, he's like
Gonzalez doesn't talk, and it's like I guess it's unsettling and unnerving. I know we talked about defensive backs that you faced who just kept up a running stream of commentary all afternoon. Was there a guy for you who was like that, who was so quiet it was a little bit disarming?
Steph.
Who was Steph? Okay.
Yeah. Guy never. You didn't say a word to you.
Yeah.
And if he did, you'd be like, well. He starts talking trash to you, and it's like, okay, he really means business. And during practice and during games, even games, when I played him against him, dude, I was with Steph for 7 years. I played against him in Buffalo every single week, and then I went to New England and played against him twice a year. And then he came to New England, so I was with Steph for the first half of his career, and I loved going against Steph because A, he's a good corner. B, he wasn't a guy that was going to talk trash to you, but he would not. I don't care if you were a first round draft pick or a rookie or a practice squad guy, like that dude was not going to let you beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think was made me better as a player going against him. But if Steph starts talking trash to you, like, it means business. So listen, he goes about his work quietly. Christian does. I hope that he continues to build off of that. I would love to see him a little bit in the press man. See if he has that ability, because it seemed like to me he played off on Jamar Chase a bunch. Mm-hmm. And if I'm Seattle, I'm looking at that. He wasn't even on third and short situations. He was off. A good 6-7 yards. So that to me, I love off coverage. Right now, I got a full free run at it. Unimpeded. I know a lot of it. Maybe they had some underneath guys dropping underneath it and doing different things, but he's going to have to do that at some point and step up and be that press man guy that can take away half the field.
And he's going to be, if week one is any indication, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be facing number one each week, whether it's Tyreek Hill, whether fill in the number one wide receiver.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson, he's going to be that. Do you think right now at this stage of his career, he's up to that job?
I think it's a tall ask. I think that Jerod and that defensive staff is going to give him help when they can. I mean, you saw it in the red zone. There was a double team on Jamar, no matter where he was, and that's fine. Take him away. He's the number one guy. I mean, that's what we did. We didn't always rely on Steph or Malcolm or Logan or any of those guys to just be like, okay, cool, you're on an island. See you later. Right. There are only a handful of guys in the league that can do that. There's always a little behind the scenes, we have a safety. It's like, okay, cool, you're checking over here. Right.
Yeah.
Or you have a linebacker. It's like, hey, if it's pass, you're going to drop underneath Jamar or whatever it is. So we always have those little nuances that I think we're going to provide Christian help. And we're not just going to say there are going to be plays. There are going to be, listen, it might be blitz zero, or we're just going to be man across the board. And it's like, hey, this is you. We need you to step up and listen. Is he going to be successful every single time? No, because these are the number one receivers that he's going to have to guard every single week. But I think what we expect for him is to compete, and make that a battle. week in and week out. And there are going to be some good receivers that he's going to have to kind of limit big plays. But I think that's going to be the story that we tell on Monday or Tuesday was Christian able to limit DK, on a 20+ yard gain? Did Tyreek Hill beat us across the field? Did Garrett Wilson have huge plays, big chunk plays down the field? And if we say no, I think that he did his job.
It's going to be fascinating to watch him grow all year. Yeah. And a lot of the younger guys, and we didn't even mention Keon White, who had a tremendous game coming off the edge. So many of these young guys are now in position on both sides of the ball to have a real impact on the 2024 team. And maybe we set the expectations too low for this team. Maybe
this guy didn't.
You didn't, but maybe a lot of us who are saying, look, I said 5-12. There were a lot of people up here who said 3-14, 4-13. It's
a long season, man.
That's the thing. It's a long season. Yeah.
But again, we could look at a different team in week 2. It's hard to do it week in and week out. That's the challenge. This is not a team that's just going to be able to roll it out there and be competitive. We're going to have to do this week in and week out, and that's tough to do. And I know better than anyone, like that's not an easy task. But if this team has the mentality and they have the mindset that they can do this week in and week out, they got the confidence, and they can roll into every single game and say, hey, we're going to be competitive. We need to do X, Y, and Z to stay competitive and get this into a 4 quarters of a game, and we're not going to give up no matter what. Then listen, I told you, man, we're looking at a team that's going to surprise some people. And I'm not saying we're going to playoffs, or we're going to win a Super Bowl, but we're going to make it difficult for teams to play New England, and we are going to compete. And they're going to come to you, or they're coming to New England. It's going to be a 4-quarter battle. No matter what.
I want to ask you one more quick question about Jacoby Brissett based on what happened in week 1. And maybe on a personal level, I talked to a couple other guys about how happy they were for him about, having to kind of not suffer, but look, there's a lot of talk about why not play Drake? Is Jacoby the right guy for the job? He heard a lot of criticism over the spring and the summer that, he's just a mentor. He's just a bridge guy. To be able to see him come out and lead a team like that in a moment like that, he again still strikes me as the perfect man for this moment. A perfect transitional quarterback, a perfect bridge quarterback who's going to get you to the Drake May era in a way that is not going to have you bottom out, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I mean, I think, listen, first and foremost, I was super happy for Jacoby. I thought it was such an incredible thing to go on the road, get your first win, and be a guy that everyone kind of had counted out, right? They were like expecting a different outcome in the start of the season. And again, he's got that chip right here that he's going to play with. And that thing's got to remain there. But again, you're a hero until you're not. And that's the unfortunate part of the position that he is in, right? Everyone loves you right now because you went out and you won a football game. It's not like you threw for 4 touchdowns, but you guided that offense to win. But when you go out and it's not great, now you're not the hero anymore. Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with that? And he's going to have to deal with that. He is a professional. I know that he can deal with wins and losses because he's done that throughout his career. How does the rest of the football team deal with it, right? How does the rest of the football team deal with the criticism or the questions? Be like, hey, do you think Drake should start? Like, why isn't Drake starting? When are we going to see Drake? How much support is that football team going to give Jacoby when things aren't great? Because that's going to happen at some point. And for what I see on this football team is that we have the support of our guys. And as long as Jacoby is going out there and giving us a chance, then I still think it's a smart thing to let this young kid sit and watch and learn and prepare himself to come in when his number is called. Because when your number's called, there's no going back, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, you're it. When your number's called, you better be damn ready that you're to come in and play. Because if you don't come out and perform, then, well, here we go into 2025 draft. Like, who are we drafting this year? Because that's going to be the story. You and I both know it. We're teetering on this line of, are we drafting a quarterback every other year? And so, like, let the kid learn, and let's let Jacoby come out there and play, man. He earned that. He's earned that. Like, let's support him up and down the line, Foxborough. Like, I'm not saying forget about Drake. Drake's a young kid, and I love him, and I think that he's going to be a good player, but he's got to learn and develop. Like, put your chips in Jacoby's corner, bro. Like, let's go. We're not talking about a Super Bowl team here, but let's get New England back on the map of winning football games and saying this is going to be a tough team to beat every single week.
Anything stand out for you about week 1 across the league? I was really struck by how bad the Panthers were, and about how good the 49ers were, even without your guy Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Panthers are just that's a disaster. It's just,
you kind of knew they weren't going to be. You kind of knew that. Look,
yeah, but not like that.
It's a long rebuild. It is. It's a long rebuild. But when you juxtapose their performance with the performance of some other teams that were in the top 5 or 10, among the draft picks, it was breathtaking how bad they were.
Yeah, I mean, they were bad. I mean, the Bears somehow squeaked away one with, their defense. Again, like, you can't at some point, we're not talking about Caleb because they won, right? But dude didn't play well. I mean, they only scored 3 points on offense or whatever it was, and their defense played phenomenal. I get, I hate watching the first couple of weeks of the season because the refs are just like, hey, we're back. I'm going to throw 1,000 flags and it's all going to be obnoxious. Like, it's like, dude, we get it. There are some rule changes. You want to we're watching that Thursday night game with Kansas City, and it was painful, bro. I wanted to turn it off because we're literally throwing flags for a guy being this off the center's belt line. Like, come on, this is the NFL. Like, let him play. Like, you made your point. We don't need to keep doing this.
And look, as much as we crushed the Patriots in a Corafor for all the illegal formation calls in the preseason finale, they didn't get one on the offensive line on Sunday.
Nothing.
Clean sheet for them.
I think, the Jets are the Jets, and they're always going to be the Jets. I think a lot of people, there was a lot higher expectations going out to San Francisco and make that a closer game than it was, but I'm going to go out and say that that's the contender right there that they played. Brock played well. That San Francisco team played well. That defense they shut Aaron Rodgers down, and that offense that was everyone thought so highly of. There was some good football. There's a lot of bad football on this weekend, but that's week 1, and it's all right. How well are all of these teams going to be able to make the adjustments and kind of find their identity and then kind of move on into week 2 and see how they do? That's week 1 of the National Football League, right? So was I surprised? Not really. I was expected to see bad football across the board. And then, you get the teams that were supposed to win. In our case, we played better football than Cincinnati, and we got away with a W that, not a lot of people thought we were going to happen.
I know your answer to this question, so I even hesitate to ask it, but can you imagine if we're sitting here next week and the Patriots are 2-0 and the Jets are 0-2 and we're previewing the Thursday night game at MetLife between New England and New York and Aaron Rodgers and Jacoby Brissett, and the conversations that we will have going into that game with a possibility of them moving to 3-0. I know you're a week to week guy.
I'm a victim of this overconfidence, right? And just always I'm looking at the positive. And there are ways to win football games every single week. It is damn hard to win football. In the National Football League, it's hard to win. I don't care who's playing. And now you got a team that's coming over from the West Coast that's got to travel to New England and didn't really play great. But now New England is a team that did play well, and they got ton of confidence going into this game, home opener. If I'm Seattle, man, like you better prepare as all hell to come play this team because they are going to come out firing. And it's going to be there's going to be a big task of Van Pelt and Jacoby to keep this kind of ball rolling in the right direction. But 2-0 is not far off. I really believe that. And if we're sitting here next week and say, hey, cool, now we got to preview Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And I'm going to tell you that the AFC, like I said a few months ago, is up for grabs because I was not impressed with the Buffalo Bills and, Miami. You got one guy that you realistically have to take away,
Well, everyone after Kansas City, everything after Kansas City. Kansas City for me is
they're in a different world, because he's got some weapons to throw to, and that's a whole different conversation now. But in the AFC East, right? I don't know. I don't know. It's like kind of like we're gonna see the AFC East is gonna be one of those. Hey, there might be a 8 and 9 team that comes out of there and makes the playoffs. Like, could we be that team? Who knows? Right? Those are the games that really matter. So again, man, listen, I know that my overconfidence is probably killing some people that are going to listen to it and be like, oh, it's, week 1 and we didn't do it. Jacoby only had, 100 yards offense and we can't rely on, like, I get it. It's tough to ask our team to play like this week in and week out, but you stay available, we stay healthy, and it can be done. So I think that week 2 is very gettable. I really do. And we're at home. Let's protect the house, man. Like we've gone on for a couple years here where no one's afraid to play New England at home anymore. Like let's bring that back. A lot of energy from Foxborough. Let's get that horn blowing and see what happens. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. It really is. It's going to be hot. Weather's not gonna be a factor, so let's see what these guys, let's see what their Patriots staff can cook up for this Sunday.
You go into a week 2 game and you win at home against Seattle, a West Coast team coming east playing a 1:00 game. That figures into it as well. I think the expectation level starts to change a little bit. Again, to your point before, this is not a playoff team. This is not a team that's going to sniff 500, I still think. But the expectation around this team, the level week to week, I think starts to change just a little bit. I have one more question for you real quick before we start to wrap up. I realize I want to ask you this. What do you think about your old boss's media career that he has taken on now more and more? We see this on my social media feed, whether it's Instagram, whether he's going to be on Twitter next. Right, he's got to be on Twitter next.
Yeah, we'll see what
he's doing. He was on the Manning cast last night. He was excellent, by the way, on the Manning cast. I don't know if you saw any of it.
I did.
He's doing some fantasy stuff.
I'm going to see him next week. Actually, we're doing something for the PLL and the crossover. So I'll make sure I get a picture of it and see if I can post it on his Insta face. Listen, man, Bill, he's got that persona, bro. He's got that, like everyone across his career, he was but he's got a personality, and it could come out kind of like how you see a lot of these guys that leave New England, even our boy that was, on the broadcast this week who, thought he did pretty good. Thought there was some, he's gonna have to watch the game tape and kind of critique himself and go over things, but storytelling and broadcasting is tough, man. You don't just nail it right out of the gate. So it's cool to see both of them kind of taking on different roles in their next life. And I know the coach wants to come back and, he does want to coach next year if he gets the opportunity. But I think it's really cool that people are seeing a different side of Bill Belichick. And no one's talking about right now, like, hey, Bill, like you couldn't win without Tom. Like, no, we're talking because this guy is a damn good football coach. And now he's He's on social media. He's doing different things. He's built this media, business, and he's doing, like, I love it. Like, let people see a different side of you, coach. And because I think that's good for you. I think that's good for your brand, because your knowledge of football goes above and beyond everyone else. But like, dude, you are a person that I think people would actually like to hang out with and grab a beer with every once in a while, because you can make people laugh. And I think that's, like, just call it Instagram, bro. Like, what it's called. Like, relax with the Instaface. Like, just call it what it is. All right. Stop with the Instaface. Like, bro, it's Instagram. You know what it is. Like, come on. It's every single year. Get off Instaface. Like, it's fucking Instagram.
Chris Hogan,
kills me.
Thank you very much for your time, my friend. Take care, and we will talk again next week when you got the Patriots and the Seahawks Sunday at 1 at Gillette Stadium. Take care, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
See you, Chris.